Hey guys, Andy here. So I love the technology that can be used when cycling. And most of that technology syncs in through your cycle computer. That's kind of the hub of everything. That's where you get all your data from, your metrics afterwards. That cycle computer, I've only been cycling 4 or 5 years, and the first two of those I've had have been Wahoo products, and they've been very good. There's not really been anything wrong with them. But when I realised there's a cycle computer that's based on Android, I figure I've got to check it out. So here we are. We're taking a look today at the Hammerhead Karoo. So if we talk about first what comes in the box, I mean, not a lot to be quite honest. You get a mount, you get a adapter for the Garmin quarter turn mount. So if you're already using a Garmin mount on your bike at the front, you can use the adapter they give. If you're a Wahoo user, it's not so good because for some reason it's kind of that's 90 degrees through, so your head unit would be sideways. So I mean, I bought a separate little adapter. It's only about 12 or 13 pound, and I'm using that. But yeah, there's not a great deal more in the box. There's not even a sort of a QR code to scan through to get to the app. So you have to kind of work that out yourself, I suppose. What I did find after a few days is there's quite a lot of information on their website. If you find your way there, I'll try and remember to put a link down below. But yeah, if you start going through their FAQs and things, then that's how I really learn a lot more. But yeah, you have to sort of do that yourself, really. So this is the unit. It's bigger than most, but that's one of the reasons I wanted it. So my Wahoo I really like, but I realised very quickly after I bought it that it's just a little bit small. My old eyes now struggle to see some of the numbers on the screen because they're just that little bit smaller. So I wanted a bigger screen that I'll be able to see the numbers. If we talk a little about the actual hardware then. So a 2 gigahertz quad core CPU. It's got 64 gig of storage. I've installed Great Britain and Spain maps, and that took less than 6 gigs, so there's plenty of space. It's got 4 gig of RAM. It's a 3.2 inch 480 by 800 display, which really is very bright and very clear. It's quite impressive in some ways. It's got multi-GNS for better GPS accuracy. It's definitely on the bigger side of cycle computers. It weighs 118 grams, which is almost twice as much as my Bolt V2, which was 68 grams. It's got a good speaker. The notifications are very loud and they're kind of either on or they're off. Thankfully, you can sort of change that in the profile and just have them sort of permanently off, but it'd be nice to have a bit of control over what things triggered notifications. The buttons are very responsive. So the buttons on the sides, there's 2 on each side, and a power button underneath. They're very responsive to the fact that, I mean, I kept starting rides because I couldn't help but keep catching that one button on the bottom right, which is for start and stop. It seemed a little bit too easy to do. There are some interactions, especially if you turn off screen touch, you know, go into like rain mode, where you have to press the 2 buttons either side at the same time. And I do wonder, well, why didn't they set that up as to how you start a ride is pressing the 2 buttons and then have just the 1 button press as being what the 2 button press does, if that makes sense. So if 2 button presses brings up your notification on the bottom, we'll have that as the 1 button press on the right and have the 2 button presses start the ride. Anyway, small thing. There is an app, but I'm not gonna lie, it's terrible. I mean, it's just kind of a gateway really to connect your phone through to the head unit. So this is the 3rd iteration of Hammerhead's Karoo. The previous 2, definitely the second one, you could put a SIM card in, which I quite like the idea of. So you could be riding around and it would just, when you finished or whatever, even if, I don't know, well, yeah, it just stayed connected for you. So when you finish the ride, it will just upload it itself. And it seems to confuse some Karoo users. I don't know if they haven't used a regular cycle computer, but well, how are you going to sync it in? Why don't you sync it through Wi-Fi or through your phone like everyone else does? So it's fine. It's not a loss. But yeah, the app kind of, it's just a gateway. You can use it to sort of share your location. So when you connect your phone to your head unit, in the app there is the button saying share my location. Although when I've tried to use it, it didn't seem to be updating that well from what people, I mean, I wasn't checking myself, but people trying to track me said it wasn't all that great. There is a website you can use, which I think is quite good. It's reasonably good. Helps you sort of, well, either look back at rides you've done or to manage your routes and maps and things. And in that, the sort of map or the routes management is quite good. I like that you can set up collections, for example. So if I've got a load of rides that go to certain, Spokes is our favourite location, I've got loads of different ways of getting there. So I've got a collection of about 20 different routes to get to Spokes. So that's quite handy. Or if you're going away on holiday somewhere, you can, if you make a bunch of routes for the location, you're after a trip to Wales, you can make a collection called Wales and put all of your routes in there. It will sync in through Strava and Komoot, and I mean, like you kind of would expect it to, I suppose, but that works quite well. So the unit itself runs on Android 12. They're very, I mean, I've only had this for a month, but reading through their forums and just speaking, I've got a friend that uses one as well, the Karoo too. So you do get regular app updates, and they're not just kind of like, I don't know, security updates or bug fixing. They're generally quite good at releasing new features. The route selection, you've got a few different ways you can do this. So you can just go in and just scroll through your routes and pick one. You can change the sort order, distance, how new they are, maybe even elevation, I forget. And you can just pick one from there. You can also, using your phone, you find something on Google Maps and you share it to the Hammerhead app, which then passes it to the head unit, and then you go and say, right, navigate there. I think that's actually really, really handy. There were times when we were away this summer where someone said, oh, we're at this coffee shop, come and meet us. And actually on my Wahoo it was quite a pain. Well, you just couldn't really put it in. You had to I had to navigate on my phone and have literally cycle on holding my phone looking at Google Maps. Whereas if I'd had the Hammerhead, I could have just sent it from my phone to the head unit and off I go. So I do really like that feature. You can have points of interest, but it's a little weird. You can't, I mean, I hoped that I could just save a bunch of my different coffee stops, for example, and then if I fancy going to one when I'm out and about, I just bring up point of interest and list them by what's the nearest and pick a coffee shop and it'll route me to it. But you can't, you have to sort of find the point of interest on the map and then tell it to go to it. Well, if I'm scrolling around a map looking for things, what's the point of having the point of interest almost? So that's a little bit weird. Hopefully they'll improve that in time. Strava live segments are amazing, I think, how they've implemented it. So as you're approaching a live segment that you've starred in Strava, it pops up at the bottom. You can then pull it up and make it full screen if you want. And if you do that, you get in the top half of the screen, you'll see the sort of profile of the segment, like how lumpy it is. But underneath it, you get kind of it's like a league table, I suppose. So anyone that you follow, it will have their times in that bottom half, and it will show you the person that's behind you and the person that's ahead of you, or yourself, your PR. So you might start in a segment, it's saying, oh, you're 2 seconds behind your PR, but you're a second ahead of person X. And then as you push past your PR, it replaces that PR that was ahead of you with the next person you follow. Oh, person Y is now 3 seconds, you're 3 seconds behind person Y. So, yeah, well, and then you overtake them and then they fall behind you. And person B, I don't know, oh, you're 4 seconds behind person B. Oh my God, it's so much fun. Like I've beat some PRs that I would never thought I'd have beaten just by kind of chasing through that, trying to get up that ladder. Really well implemented, in my opinion. And I do like Strava live segments. It's the kind of thing that really motivates me to push harder. You can also, because it's Android, you can sideload other apps. Now, it's possibly not as useful because you've not got a SIM card. I imagine actually having a SIM card and be able to sideload, I mean, it's almost like having another phone. So it's not as useful, but it's let me put things on there that can screen record, and I've put, the Wahoo System X app, I've put that on there. Strava, so I guess in theory, if you wanted, you could record your ride with Strava. I've not tried it really. But yeah, it's kind of just a little fun, nerdy, geeky thing extra that you can do. It is the first time I've had a touchscreen head unit, which I'm not overly bothered by. I almost prefer to use the buttons. But yeah, I see the use of it. It's quite handy, it's quite good. Swiping around and pressing on buttons and tapping different options and thinking, yeah, okay. And then when I was out yesterday, I was out in the rain, and you can just turn off the touchscreen element, and it's still usable with the buttons. It's a little bit harder to do some things. Like I say, some actions require you to press 2 buttons at the same time, and that's a little tricky. But yeah, works just fine. The actual layout of the screen is really quite adaptable. You can change how many different data points you want on the screen. You can set up different amounts of screens that you scroll through. You can then set up different profiles, which I think is quite clever. So you could have one for, I don't know, riding in the mountains, where it's got different screens with elevation gain and all that kind of stuff. And you might have, I don't know, you might have a time trial profile, which is just got a big power reading on it and maybe the time on it, I don't know. Or you could have your regular, I'm out riding a route profile, where it's got distance to your destination and average speeds. Or you might have a free riding profile where it's not got maps or anything, it just shows you the time and your power perhaps, I don't know. But I quite like that, so you can switch between profiles depending what you're doing or what you're riding that day. So yeah, I think that works really well. Moving to the battery, I'm quite pleasantly surprised by the battery, because you think with a big head unit with a big bright screen like that, compared to the sort of black and white screens, well, I suppose they're colour, but they're not as powerful on other units like Wahoos and Garmin's. And I was really impressed. So it's a 3,300 milliamp hour battery, and they claim 15 hours usage. Now, I've had a few different rides of different lengths. If I do a 40-mile ride, which is maybe about 3 hours, it uses between 25 and 30%, and that's pretty good. If I did a 75-mile ride, and it still only used 44%, and that was with a couple of stops as well. So in theory, I can probably do 130 miles to 170 miles, which the battery will last longer than my legs, basically, I think is the point that I'm seeing there. So yeah, there's no concerns for me as far as I'm concerned. They have made the battery bigger from the Karoo 2, and it does last longer than the Karoo 2 apparently. So if you had that and you're wondering about the difference, well, yeah, it is better. And also it charges via USB-C, which, I mean, that's kind of a given and a bit of a standard, I suppose, at this point, you would hope. So some of the negative things, I've already mentioned the points of interest. I don't get who thought that was a good idea. The way they've implemented it, to me, just doesn't make any sense. The notifications of beeps, they're so loud, which, okay, that's all right. But I mean, yeah, either a volume control or just some more options on what you might want. So for example, I don't want beeps if I've got a turn coming up, but I might want a beep if I've got a car behind me. For example, like my radar sinks in through the head unit. So that would be good. It can be a little laggy at times. I feel like it's mainly when you first boot up and you first set out on the ride and you first pull down the notifications perhaps. But I feel like it does sort of speed up then as it gets going. And maybe, you know, it's a bit like Android, when you first boot your phone up, you have to give it a bit of time to work stuff out, and then it's a lot quicker. So in conclusion, I think the price could be a barrier for many. At £450, that's an expensive head unit. But at the same time, I don't know if you've seen how expensive bikes can be. So yeah, it depends on you and your budget, really. I really like it. Very quickly I realised this was going to be my new head unit. I sort of bought it thinking, well, there's a 30-day money back guarantee. If you don't like it, no quibbles, just send it back. I thought, well, that makes me feel a bit safer. I'm spending a lot of money here. If I sort of get it and think, not really worth it, no problem, send it back. Very quickly I knew, yeah, this is the head unit for me. I feel a bit like Wahoo. I've not tried Garmin. Wahoo units are cycling computers designed by cyclists. I feel like the Hammerhead is a cycle computer designed by a nerd cyclist. I know that people might think to me that's a good thing, I suppose what I'm saying. Just the way that they've kind of, I don't know, yeah, like the live segments is the classic example for me. It's just amazingly done. When you think about, I mean, why not almost, as opposed to just my Wahoo, which told me if I was ahead or behind my PR. Well, this has brought in all these other people in and showing me like a league table almost that I can work my way up through. Really well done. It can be a little overwhelming initially because there's so many data points. You can put so many different data fields on your screen. But I think that options are great when you start understanding like what you really want. So for example, on a Wahoo, I could have speed and that would be it. But it's speed based off GPS. GPS can sort of bounce around a little bit, and like your power, I suppose, as well, can change quite a lot within like a second or two. But on this head unit, you have the option of a 3-second speed, and there might be different, like power might be more. I can't remember, to be honest. I just thought, 3 second, ideal. that's a much more stable speed that I can just look down. It's pretty accurate because you're not going to change that much within the space of 3 seconds, or it shouldn't do. So therefore, a 3-second speed, ideal really. I did mention as well, I do like that it syncs in through your phone. So in theory, you get phone notifications come through. For me, that doesn't work too well though. I'm getting some email notifications, but that seems to be about it. So maybe that'll improve in the future. But I mean, bottom line, it is a great head unit, but it is very pricey. So can I recommend it to people? Not at that price, but at the same time, if it's within your budget, to me, it's the best cycling head unit that I've used yet. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours in the comments down below. But for now, my name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon.